Hello and welcome to the Fenland Chat Hour. I'm producer Dave, and we are joined by our usual co-host Amanda Carlin.
Hello, producer Dave.
Hello. This is May the 4th, 2020, episode 15, and may the 4th be with you.
And may the 4th be with you too. Happy Star Wars Day.
Happy Star Wars Day. Or how to annoy everyone else, Happy Star Trek Day.
Oh dear.
But, you know, I've made the effort. I actually have a Star Wars t-shirt on as well. So
You do?
I do like Star Wars. I also like Star Trek as well, so I'm quite happy to sit in the middle between both camps and just watch everyone fire rockets at each other. But, yeah, I was quite amused. I saw a baby Yoda, you know, from the Mandalorian series.
Yes.
And it had a face mask on it and says, you know, may the 4th be with you, stay safe and stay at home or something like that.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it is. It says everything, you know. That
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So how are you then? How are you today? A good weekend?
Yes, I've had a good weekend. Thank you for asking. Been busy looking at how we're going to manage VDay Celebrations in Wimbo.
Yeah.
With the Wimbo posse.
Shout out to the Wimbo.
Yay! So we've got some households that are really up for it, and there's going to be a disco in one street.
Mm-hmm.
There's another street that's having picnics on the front garden, and yes, it sounds really good.
Well, I've got some bits as well for that as well, so we might as well just talk about VDay before we get onto the show. But yeah, I mean, Chatterers have got a page now on Facebook for VDay Celebrations.
Oh, brilliant!
So that's one that's been set up, and there's lots of people putting on about, you know, which end, you know, areas within Chatterers are going to be holding parties and stuff, and also they just want to make sure that everyone understands that it's not a party, it's a stay-at-home party, and we're not trying to, you know, this has come down from on high, you know. It's sort of it's a UK wide thing, you know. It's not just individual towns. This is a national thing. And if you look on various newspaper, you know, or news channels, there are lists of itineraries of things that are going to be happening. There's lots of messages on the TV and radio, and I think there might be a fly past, and there's all sorts of little things that are going on. So this is a sort of semi-coordinated event. You know, it's not like, but they're not advocating that everyone goes out and has a big party on the street. You know, they're not. This is
not,
you know,
advocating a gathering, are they?
Exactly. So
yeah,
if you're having a party, you have your party at home. They say, you know, stay in your garden, open your windows, wave at other people, put bunting out. And I've already seen bunting across the street from us. We've got stuff in the windows, and other people are beginning to put stuff in. But you've got some people moaning, saying, "Oh, this is not right. This is not what we should be doing." And like, yeah, but we're not doing that. That's the thing. They've kind of, just like we were talking just before we started, we've got people who are completely missing. They're not reading the instructions properly. You know, we're not saying we're going to have one big party. It's a case of you have your party. It's World War II themed, and you have it at home, and you stay at home, but you just help sort of spread the music and the joy of the day. You know, if you go back to World War II, you know, even in the middle of the Blitz, when things were really dark and they were struggling, you know, night after night after night, they were still having parties. They were still celebrating, you know, freedom, and, well, not the lack of freedom, but just sort of they were just celebrating life. You know, and just keeping their spirits up, and that's the whole purpose of this. You know, yes, we're remembering those that died, and the end of the Second World War, but it's also a way for us just to raise our own spirits. and say, there will be an end to this. There is something to look forward to. It's not all grim and doom and stuff, despite all the news and stuff that we're seeing. So it's just a way of people, just to lift people's spirits and just, give them an element of hope for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the photos of London during the Blitz, and everybody's in tube stations, aren't they? Yeah. They're even doing the conga, aren't they?
Exactly.
You've got famous people doing the conga.
Yeah, and that's
amazing.
It. They always make do with the situation, and they make it, I'm sure there were people there who would sort of hide behind curtains going, oh dear, they're celebrating again. How dare they? It's supposed to be a lockdown. It's just like, you've got to relax a little bit, and go with the moment and just enjoy the celebrations, but just do it sensibly and
yes, absolutely. Nothing wrong with coming together at a distance.
Yeah. We're not saying have a big party and having mass barbecues and things like that. Just you do what you do in your house, but just share what you're doing with other people.
I don't see that it's any different than going out and doing the applause once a week. You're at the same distance.
Yeah, but the problem is they couldn't even do that properly. As they saw on London Bridge, where the bridge was absolutely packed. And it kind of defeats the whole purpose of celebrating, clapping for carers, because they were all together en masse. Like, there is a resistance to actually understand, or a lack of caring on some people's parts, to actually follow the instructions. It's not difficult. 2 meters is, if we'd said 6 inches, there would be a big issue. There'd be, distances all over the place. But 2 meters is quite, it's your 1.5 times your height. That's your guide.
Yeah. Years ago, there used to be a man in March. I've forgotten what his name was, but. When you're young and you go out and you're enjoying yourself and you do the pub crawls. Well, you can do them when you're older as well, but I used to do them a lot when I was younger. There was always this chap, I want to say his name, and he was from Scotland. And if you got too close to him, he would say, I can't do the Scottish accent. He would say, you are invading my space. Can't do it. You are invading my space. That's all he needed to say. Didn't need to say any more than that. Everybody completely backed up. Oh, sorry. And got away from him. He didn't like people being close to him, which is fair enough. And I'm really starting to feel like that. I want to have something that's 2 meters long to keep everybody away from me.
Well, they have done in some of the schools in China. They've actually got hats that actually have bits that stick out.
I love that.
So that you can they actually have their distancing. I mean, it's great, it's simple, but if it works, it works.
I'd love that in the supermarket. Mind you, I'd knock everything down. Exactly,
and I think I would end up with a headache. Where should we go? News. Should we go to the news?
Yes.
Where should we start? Right, we'll start off with the government is setting up a tracking app. That's something we've talked about previously. I believe it was the MOD did some trials with the Air Force on one particular station, so they tested it, and then they just used they created a fake supermarket, and then they did all sorts of things. So now they're actually going to the second phase of testing, which is on the Isle of Wight, and they have to get something like 70% of the population of the Isle of Wight to actually use it for it to actually work. So that will be the next couple of weeks where they're going to trial it and see how effective it is. Because of what they've said is that if not enough people use it, it's not effective.
Yeah.
And, they've also pointed out that not everybody has a smartphone. So the idea is that it's a Bluetooth system. So you have your phone, you come close to someone else who has a phone, Bluetooth will recognise who it is and that you're in close proximity. And then if you then have symptoms from COVID-19, you then push the button on your phone and it then immediately notifies people who you have been in contact with in the recent few days. It alerts them and then informs them that they then need to go into isolation for 14 days, I think it is. So the problem is not everyone has a smartphone, and I think a lot of the elderly won't have access to smartphones just generally because a lot of them don't know how to use them. Some of them do.
That's true. But then, there's another factor, isn't there?
There is, yes.
That's people, not everybody's going to want to do it.
There is that as well. There's the security issues as well, which is something that we were just talking about before we came on air, and that was about conspiracies and stuff. And no matter what you tell people, there are going to be an element of the population that just do not trust anything that you say or do. So yeah, there's not everyone is going to take part for whatever reason.
I think there could be resistance to it because of conspiracy, and also I don't know about the population of the Isle of Wight or its demographic really, or how it's made up at all. But what's becoming clear to me is that a lot of people are really struggling, especially with food bank take-up, up by 81%.
Yeah.
Currently. That was in the first 2 weeks of lockdown.
Yeah.
So that was sharp. And I think that there's an element of the population that are eager to get back to work because they're concerned about finance. And I think those people may be resistant to being tested.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's quite possible.
It's human nature, isn't it?
It is. And I think the only way that you would actually get around this would be to have the phone companies actually install the software automatically. Then you've got permission issues, you've got security issues as well, and you've got access. It's people holding information about you and where it goes and what happens to it. And I think that's the thing that needs to be made clear. What are they actually going to do with the information? Where does it go? What's it going to be used for? Who's going to have access to it? As anything in GDPR, the way that's supposed to be handled, they need to be clear for legal reasons what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can automatically, if it comes from the man, as I heard on the TV program the other day.
Yes, that's true.
There is an element of mistrust because it comes from a government body. Therefore, they're doing something with a motive behind it that you don't know. Actually, no, they're just trying to save your lives. And if you can't see that someone actually wants to save your life and try and make things easier for you, then it's sad, really.
It is, yeah.
So, yeah, so no doubt we'll hear more on the tracking software, because obviously if it's successful, then it'll be rolled out across the UK and no doubt across the rest of the world as well, as other apps are being trialled as well.
Yes.
Next, we've got the announcement in the press of the death of Kit Owen, who sadly died as a result of coronavirus. If you don't know who he was, he was the mayor of March 6 times, I think it was.
Yes, 6 times.
So it's sad to hear about that, to hear his loss, and our thoughts go out to his family and surviving family. And And if you want to know more about who he was, then if you go over to the Cams Times, they've got a write-up on who he was and what he'd done. Fire safety is still outbreaks of fires in buildings, like buildings, workplaces and schools. So just make sure if you are responsible or you have a business or something, just make sure that you are checking it regularly, making sure it's all secure, there's no vandalism, and making sure that there's no build-up of materials and stuff that could cause fires and stuff. So yeah, just keep an eye on your properties, your business properties, during the lockdown period. What we've got next, Greggs, they were planning to do a trial of reopening on the 7th of May, but due to fears of overcrowding, they felt that there would be a massive rush on the stores. They've had to reschedule it. They're rethinking about when to do it. So they have done some trials, but they've done it behind closed doors. So
that's good.
Yeah, because they were going to do 20 shops, and they were going to do a small trial just to see how they went on. But I think they realised that could cause more problems.
Did you see the footage of Burger King, the drive-through?
No.
It was queuing. It was queuing for miles.
I know a couple.
I can't remember where it was.
Yeah, I know a couple of fast food have started work again and started just on the drive-through element. I know, but some of these fast food ones, some people live and die by them. They've got to have their fast food fix.
And I can empathise with that. I'm a foodie.
Yeah.
But perhaps not McDonald's or Burger King. KFC.
I was going to say mine's the finger-licking chicken variety. Other fast food outlets are available.
They do good chips.
Yeah, they do. Now, something that they're talking about with now that we are kind of hitting the peak, certainly in the east of Anglia. There's speculation that we've now got to the top now, and things are going to the number of cases are going to start to decrease, which is why they're talking about the possibility of exit strategies and reducing lockdowns. But a lot of businesses are looking to restart or increase the number of people who are working. Now, just something to bear in mind is my personal experience working with companies and bosses in the past is that it doesn't matter what the government says, businesses will still do their own thing, and there will be some managers who are still out to make money, make a profit, and basically wring every single last thing out of the employee. Now, this is obviously something very, very sensitive when people are going back, and there is social distancing has to be maintained, and all the regulations have to be followed, and hygiene and safety and stuff like that all have to be implemented in the workplace. So this is just a shout out just to get business owners to remember to follow the protocol, the procedures, and don't pressurize the staff into having to make decisions where they're having to work in unfavorable conditions or in large groups of people or go places that are unsafe. Look after your staff, because you need to. You've got to do the right thing. You've got to. Yes, you want to have your business up and running, but you've got to be accepting that this is going to take a while to get everything back up, and you don't want to be putting undue pressure onto staff members as they start to return to work.
Yes. I mean, an employer doesn't want to be liable to corporate manslaughter.
Exactly.
That could be the outcome. And no employee should have their safety compromised through greed. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it is sad. I mean, it doesn't matter even when there's no lockdown. You know, companies will push staff to the limit of safety, and sometimes it's a wonder that accidents or fatalities don't happen as much as they could do, because there is always a fine line between profit and safety. And that's in a normal, safe world. But now we have these extra bits, then, yeah, we're just saying, you know, just please have a bit more consideration for the people that are working for you. That's my news.
I've got one thing, David.
Yeah, you've got some news stuff, haven't you?
Yes, just one. The government are starting their bounce back loans today. So therefore, businesses are available from £2,000 to £50,000. So if your business has a requirement, look into it. There's no repayment for 12 months and interest-free for 12 months. £2,000 to £50,000.
Is this to fill the gap of the loans that were originally set, where it was like £25,000 minimum with lots of criteria?
Yes. These are supposed to be simplified, and approvals supposed to be easier. I don't know what the percentage likelihood is or what the criteria is. I haven't looked at that, but it is worth looking into if you've got a business that does need a bounce back loan. Okay,
that's good. So that's it. I mean, there are more and more options getting out there for people to access finances if need be. Right, I think that's that for the news. Rural news. Well, we talked about the VDay Celebrations, not VD Day. That's something completely different. A victory in Denmark. That's what it was.
Well saved.
Yeah, so we've discussed that. So there are obviously a number of celebrations around the UK and also around the Fenland area. There'll be lots of towns that are having their own celebrations. So and
lots of local live streams as well, David. There are groups doing 40s songs. Mm-hmm. That would be nice.
I think maybe we should do something maybe VDay themed on our next show, seeing as we're doing it on the Thursday, which will then go out on VDay, so people won't have an excuse to listen, because it'll be a bank holiday, so they can sit at home, they can download the podcast and listen and celebrate in 1940s style. I'm sure we can find something, maybe put some bunting up in the background and some...
That sounds like a plan. It's very good.
So, yeah. There have been a number of, some more themed events that have been cancelled. There is I believe in Wisbech, there is a beachfront parade that's now been knocked on the head. That was in June. That was planned for June, so that was, I think they were hanging out to the last minute on that one. So that one's gone. So, but yeah, if you were planning to go to any events, then just check them out before you go anywhere. Most of them are going to be closed anyway, but just sort of over the next few months as the lockdown comes out of it, just make sure that you're not making unnecessary journeys to events that are no longer happening. Have you got some rural news? You've got something about Ravenswoods?
Yes, thank you. Ravenswood Pet Rescue, they have 2 little pugs in their care. They are called Edna and Elsie, and they're only 2 years old. One of them, Elsie, her eye, bless her, is about to pop, and she has to go in for emergency surgery. And Ravenswood have been offered a huge discount to have this work done for Elsie, but they still need funding to pay for it. So if anybody would like to contribute towards Elsie's operation, please call the vet directly on 01354 694 794. That's 01354 694 794. I think it's Tria Vets in Chatteris.
Okay.
And they will take card payments directly from people towards that.
Okay. Okay, anything else rural? Well,
no.
All right, we've got the Fenland District Council. They now have a platform for businesses. So if your business is still open, they've set up a dedicated platform to promote, so all businesses can promote their business and promote what they do during this period. So that there's just one place. I think they've had over 100 businesses sign up to it at the moment. So I haven't got the link at the moment, but if you go to the Fenland District Council and have a look there, you should find links for it. If I find it at the end, we'll add it to the Facebook page. Okay. Stats, the daily stats. It's the numbers still keep going up. The world stats of number of cases is 3,584,000. So that's over 3.5 million cases. In the UK, the number of cases is 186,599, and the deaths so far is 28,446. Now, I did say that we could be seeing ourselves being the largest number of cases of deaths in Europe by today. It's certainly within the next 24 hours at least. I think we will certainly be overtaking Italy and yeah. So I think we're about 150 behind. About 300 behind, I think. So it really depends.
It's marginal, isn't it?
It's so close, And do we really want to have the title of being the country with the most cases? This is why. What we've been talking about for so long, that people just aren't taking this seriously. Just as a measure of scale. I mean, we talk about in comparison with football stadiums. The next football stadium in the UK that would actually hold 28,446 would be the University of Bolton Stadium. That's for Bolton Wanderers FC. They have the capacity of 28,723. We're just behind Birmingham City, so that's sad. But that's just sort of the only way that we can sort of start sort of gauging the amount of people that have sadly died. We're now number 4 in the world for number of cases as well. But I believe that Russia are now getting another acceleration in number of cases as well. So that's something we need to keep an eye on.
They've got very low numbers, Russia.
They have to start with, but I think they're now beginning to see it starting to climb. When you think they're right next door to China and at one end of the country and Europe on the other end, you'd be surprised if they didn't get anything. But I was watching something about Japan earlier, and what they were saying was, yes, they've had a low number of cases, but they're basically saying that their medical infrastructure couldn't cope with anymore. So they're being quite fortuitous that only a few hundred have died, and the number of cases has been low. He said because they couldn't cope with it. Had there been a higher number, because they don't have the ventilators, they don't have the medical care to deal with that number of people in one go. But yeah, that's something that they are so carefully monitoring. That's why they're enforcing the lockdowns and stuff. Because even now they're either, I can't remember if they said that they're re-establishing lockdowns, or sort of they're making them more stringent, because they just don't want a mass outbreak. So they're having to be over cautious, even though that the numbers are so low. They have to, because they know that if it runs away, that's it. That's a game changer for Japan.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. So we'll see how it happens. Hopefully, I say we'll reach the peak, but there'll still be deaths. Just because we've reached the number of cases, we're still looking at another week or so before the number of deaths starts to drop significantly. So, okay, let's have a look at our local resident, Doris, and what is she doing today?
Well, Doris today is... Doris had to go to a petrol station.
Did she?
So she must have been driving.
Is she allowed? Is Doris allowed to be out driving?
Well, this is an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure of all the detail, because of course she wouldn't be able to sit in a car with another person driving.
No.
She says she was at a petrol station and she was concerned about the sanitising of hands at the petrol station.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently there was a sign that said there were gloves available.
Yeah.
But she didn't see any evidence of gloves. So she's saying, please make sure you keep your hands clean, fill up with petrol, clean your hands, pay, clean your hands. She's very bothered by it.
Yes. Even just general, you've got petrol on your hands anyway, so you hopefully you'd be washing your hands after going to a petrol station anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. And is Doris going to launch the drawing competition?
Yes. Yes, she is. So Doris is saying, thank you for asking people to draw photos of how they think she looks. But I do think there might be a clue there in that Doris can drive. Just one thing.
Yes.
So there are 3 categories. Up to 10 years old.
Yep.
Up to 16 years old. So between 10 and 16.
Yep.
Up to 10. Between 10 and 16 years and above. 3 categories. We would love to see your drawings of how you believe Doris looks.
Excellent. So that's now going live, so you can send us your submissions. The closing date will be the 14th of May. Which
that's a good date.
Which is and that's one of our next shows. We're going to have a chat about prizes. We've got some bits and pieces, but just now that we've got 3 different categories, we will find something suitable for all age groups.
Sounds good, David.
Brilliant. Yep, so start drawing, and we'd love to see what your take of Doris is. And I'm sure Doris will love to know what she thinks people think she looks like.
I think she would, yeah. Oh, and Gail's going to be the judge.
Yes.
Gail, who looks after her.
Yes, yeah. That's brilliant. So she's the right person to be helping with the judging.
Yes.
And we must stress that judge's decision is final.
Absolutely.
And we think if there's any cheating, if there are people drawing things in age categories that shouldn't be drawing in age categories, they will be disqualified. So if you're in your 40s and you're trying to get into an under 10 category, you will be thrown out. So. We will know. But yeah, so what they need to do is send us or that if they're under 18, then obviously the guardians will have to submit their work for them. So if you put your name and contact details on the imagery they send, what we'll do is we'll set up an email.
Yes.
So you're not having to publicly publish them. So what we'll do is we will announce a email for you to send us.
Or they could come through Messenger, David.
Or Messenger, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that's secure, because obviously we're dealing with children's details and stuff. So we just want to make sure that isn't put out onto the internet. So
yes.
Yeah. Think safety first. So.
Safety first. Good point.
So we will no doubt discuss the competition with a bit more details at the next recording.
I think it's important to say that only you and I look at the Messenger pages, don't we?
Yes. It's only us that see them. So we will be deal with them responsibly and all the good stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Today we have an interview. What we're going to do, it's a long interview, so what we're going to do is we're just going to play an excerpt of it now, but we will put the full interview as a separate entity. I think that's what we're going to do with all the interviews that we've had so far. We're actually going to have them as separate recordings, so as podcasts or on videos as well, because I think people want to see the whole thing. But this one is a chap called Asa French. He lives in Peterborough, but he works for the NHS, and he is also involved with the Scout Group. His full title is County First Aid Trainer for Cambridgeshire Scouts, and he's a full healthcare assistant at the Cambridge University Hospital. So he has some first-hand experience and is working on the front line as well. But he took some time out on his day off, his very precious time, to have a chat. So please listen to what he has to say. He's an amazing man. He's done a lot of work with local groups to help raise awareness of the work the NHS has done, and he's been coordinating the making of scrubs and various garments and outfits that the nurses and doctors are wearing at the hospital, at various hospitals. So it's Peterborough and Cambridgeshire and Cambridge area. So yeah, please do listen. So we'll now play an excerpt from Asa's interview now. Hello, and today's interview guest is Asa French. And can you give me your title, please?
Yeah, David. I'm the County First Aid Trainer for Cambridgeshire Scouts and full-time healthcare assistant at Cambridge University Hospitals.
That's brilliant. Do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself, a bit of background?
Yeah, so obviously, as I've said, I'm the County First Aid Trainer for Cambridgeshire Scouts. So I've been involved with scouting for many years now as a young person, and obviously still stayed in scouting as an adult leader. Obviously, due to my commitments now with working in the NHS, I'm not unable to do a week in, week out section. So instead now, with my first aid experience that I have, my sort of volunteering role within scouting now is to train scout leaders and also the young people in first aid skills for badges and their training.
Okay, well, let's move on to the project that we're actually talking about, the main point. So tell us a bit about it.
So while I was doing the online first aid training, I announced to the leaders that I want to do a campaign to get some more, see if we can, make Cambridgeshire Scouting, to still do, go by our promise, to help other people.
Yeah.
But in a safe way. And I came up with this suggestion of doing a fundraiser to get some more scrubs into local hospitals in Cambridgeshire. And the initial idea was to do a PayPal pull and buy some scrubs. However, someone suggested the idea of getting people to make scrubs, which then I'd done a PayPal pull to buy material and to get leaders and young people to help make scrubs and scrub bags for the NHS. And doing that, Maisie blew up big time. We've got leaders that are making part of their program for the online social distancing. They've got their young people making scrub bags.
Mm-hmm.
We've got adult leaders making full sets of scrubs out of recycled material or material that have been purchased. So that was the idea behind it. It was we've got the main thing was we've got leaders and young people feeling like they are doing something useful towards the NHS, and they're not being bored at home and thinking they can't do anything to help. And having this initiative has inspired them to help the NHS.
Yeah, just talking about the scrubs themselves, I can imagine there are quite an eclectic style.
So yes, there are some.
Are there some weird and wonderful and wacky ones that are coming through?
Yeah, so I've seen some really good ones. My personal favourites has been I've seen some Avengers set of scrubs, which I think is quite appropriate.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is.
For this time, I definitely I do feel sometimes at the moment we're sort of if anyone's seen the Endgame, I feel sometimes we are at that, and we're at the stage of we need to avenge people who have lost their lives, and both citizens and NHS colleagues alike. I was just about to say, as well as the Avengers scrubs, we have ordered some unicorn and dinosaur printed pattern ones as well, which would be fantastic for children. Yes,
definitely. That would be good in the children's wards. That would be. But
so,
yeah, I mean, just the fact that we sort of hit the nail on the head. I mean, we talk about the NHS staff are just being absolute heroes themselves. Irrespective of Marvel films, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I know that you're on the front line as well. I mean, how are you all coping? I mean, it must be tough for you guys as well.
I have to say, I do think there are tough times. I've especially had some myself. I had to live away separately from my wife for a few weeks because she wasn't very well. But I think it's the thing. And it's one thing we've been struggling with is, we love the appreciation we're being shown, but sometimes we struggle as workers because we see it as just doing our job like any other person. For example, let's say example a cleaner that cleans a gym, for example. We see them they're doing their job, and we as help frontline workers are just doing our jobs as well. But we're getting this, we're being paraded as like massive superheroes. Like I've seen things on Facebook, for example, of going back to the heroes, members of the Avengers, Watchmen, DC universe. They're standing in a line in a hospital corridor, bowing their heads, and there's some nurses and doctors walking down the middle of that corridor. But we're sort of being paraded as bigger heroes than them, and we don't see it like that. We just see it as we appreciate the attention, but we're not heroes. We're just doing our jobs. That's all we see it as. The only part of it is we've just been thrown a massive curveball our way. Yeah,
it's just your time to step up instead of another group or another organisation. But it is appreciated. I mean, everything that everyone has done. I mean, it's not just you. I mean, it's like we've talked about this on the show. You've got the bin men, you've got the posties, you've got everyone who's doing their jobs. But yes, it is just their jobs. But they are still going. You know, a lot of people have had to sort of obviously self-isolate and take themselves, or they're not able to work, but you guys are still working and still putting in the hours, and you know, other people do generally just appreciate it.
Appreciation has been overwhelming. You know, at the same time, we appreciate the people that you know are staying at home, and you know they are following lockdown rules. You know, again that has helped, and also people that are being sensible as well about coming into hospital, only coming into hospital if it's a must need. Because A&E attendances have fallen, whether that is people have tried to avoid coming to hospital, which we do encourage. You know, if you do need to come into hospital, then do please come if you need it. You know, and we don't want people prolonging coming into hospital because they're thinking it can wait.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely need to still make those appointments if it's important.
Absolutely. Health it is important, and it does need to be
Okay, well, how if people still want to be involved? I mean, if you still have a requirement for more scrubs, do you still need them? And if so, how can they get involved, or how can they contact you?
Yes, we still do need scrubs. Even though Hinchinbrook and Peterborough have been fulfilled, Cambridge University Hospitals, Adam Brooks, announced last week that they would accept scrub donations with a particular pattern to be sewn. So the way to get in contact, well, there's one or two ways that can happen. Is simply join for the Love of Scrubs Cambridge or for Love of Scrubs Hinchinbrook and Peterborough on Facebook. We can make the links available to do that. I can also give my email address made available if people would rather email me to contact, and I can point people in the right direction. It's not too late to join. You don't necessarily need a sewing machine. We do ask for people who can transport, volunteer drivers, who don't mind picking up scrubs from hubs and taking to hospitals. So there's more that can be done to get involved. It doesn't necessarily just have to be bacon scrubs. And I've still got my PayPal fundraiser still going. If people wish to donate to that, I can make the link available to that as well.
That's brilliant. So what we'll do is we'll try and, if you send me the links, I'll put them on the podcast as well, so people can see it.
Oh, lovely! That'd be fantastic.
Okay, well, I think that's everything we've got. Have you got anything last messages you want to say before we finish?
Just mainly stay safe, everyone. If you're on, if you're not a key worker, obviously just keep the lockdown rules, keep going. I know it's very difficult, but if you have any concerns about your own sort of mental health and well-being, obviously there are available resources available. I'd highly recommend visiting the Mind website. Again, I can make the link. It's just very important to keep your mental health in check. But however, if you're one of these people that needs things to do as an activity, then please come and help us to do the scrub, making the scrubs. We've had quite a few volunteers that have joined, whose mental health was starting to go a little bit funny, not just from in scouting, but also friends and family members, and it's improved their mental health by helping. So please keep your mental health healthy during this lockdown. And any key workers that are listening, then keep up the good work, guys. We're all in it together, but stay safe is the main message.
That's brilliant. Right, well, thank you very much, Asa French. Thank you for your time, and we're all behind you anyway, so just keep going, and we will get there.
Thank you very much for having me on this podcast, David.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye. And that was the interview with Asa French. And as I said at the start, we will put that on as a complete interview separately sometime tomorrow. Okay, and I'll just point out the next interview we have will be with Tilly Rose, and that should be, we'll hear part of it on Thursday's show, and we'll release the whole interview on the Friday. That's the intention at the moment. and we should have a interview with a bereavement coach next week, all going well. So that's the plans ahead for interviews. Like with lockdown, do you want to do your news and then your
Thank
elements?
you. Yes, life in lockdown. I've got one thing actually on this, and that is that Fenland District Council are presently promoting a government initiative called the Skills Toolset, and that's been put together for people who want to learn new skills. And there's so much information there and loads of resources, so it's really worth having a look at. And that's on Fenland District Council's social media pages, worth having a look at. But in the news, life in lockdown.
Yeah.
I was reading a Guardian article last week, and it was an eye-opener. It was about the situation in London, and we're miles away from this situation now.
Yeah.
We don't just jump on a train and get to London any longer. So we're not familiar with what's going on. And the rough sleeper numbers in London have exploded because as soon as lockdown happened, and even in some cases just before it happened, the leisure industry, particularly pubs and restaurants, hotels, they sacked lots of individuals who didn't have secure contracts in place.
Yeah.
Now, those individuals were working on minimum wage, so they were working legally, but because they were on minimum wage, they couldn't afford flats or apartments. So many were living in rooms, they were renting rooms. So they had precarious living arrangements, and now they can't afford their rent.
Yeah.
So they no longer have anywhere to lay their head. And these individuals haven't been counted in the official statistics.
Yeah.
So they're out there, they're in the capital, they're not used to rough sleeping, so they don't know how to keep themselves safe. There are no street kitchens, only one or two charities that are still going out. But it's difficult to get the help that you usually have because physical distancing is in place, quite rightly so.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be safe. The day centres are shut, so that means there's nowhere to wash or wash clothing or get further information. And because they're naive, a lot of these people, to rough sleeping, they've lost their phones, there's nowhere to plug them in to charge up. So even if they were in the system to be notified that there's somewhere for them to go, they won't know, or they've had their phones stolen. So you've got this mass of people in a really terrible situation, and they're not accounted for officially. Now, that causes a problem with coronavirus.
Yeah.
It causes a problem. What's going to happen to them? You know, it's a terrible thought. And apparently, according to the Guardian, as you walk around London streets now, all you see is this group of rough sleepers, because usual rough sleepers, they know the system better and they're more hidden from view, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've got the police, you've got drug dealers, and then you've got people looking for drugs. So that's generally what the capital looks like at the moment, according to this article. And I found it really disheartening and upsetting. And I know I've mentioned rough sleepers before, and so have you, David. And you know, the moment the government said local authorities are responsible for housing all rough sleepers. That was a sensible move. But how do they really account for every single one? When they do the official figures, they go out one night in a whole year, don't they?
Yeah. So they know that it's vastly underestimated to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a frightening thing. I don't even know. I don't even want to know what it would be like. I hope I never have to be in that situation. We had a chat about this after the last show, and it was something that came up, and we definitely were adamant that this would be discussed on this episode. I mean, just trying to think of one option is the land army. You know, they are desperate for people to work in this region. You know, and there are. It would be a way of getting them off the street, giving them some security, because at least they would be given accommodation. They would be given a wage. They would have somewhere to stay. They can charge the phones. They've got somewhere to sleep. They're safe. Yes, it means they're going to have to do some work, but they are people who work, and I probably would think that they work hard anyway.
Yeah.
Because of the type of jobs they do. They are quite physically laborious work that they do, working in coffee shops and various other, you know, they're not easy jobs. No. And they are taken advantage of, and they are paid poorly whilst doing it. But that's the immediate thing that comes to mind, is somehow getting in touch with them, getting them off the streets, getting them up to the farms to work. It's just an idea, and it's the safest and quickest thing I can think of to get them out of that environment.
Very sensible. Very sensible. I mean, I know a lot of people are being put into hotels, and then they're given skills on how to get out of rough sleeping and move forward with their lives, and that's great. But that's more suited to people who have been longer term homeless, really, isn't it? And well, maybe, you know, in some respects, coronavirus is a good thing in that case. You know, for people who manage to save their lives and move forward, this could be a lifeline that they needed. But I can't imagine how many people are actually homeless right now in the capital. I can't get my head around it. When you think of the leisure industry in London, it's massive, isn't it? Yeah.
You think there's cafes and restaurants on every street, almost every street as you wander around. So it's not just there. I mean, in Cambridge, Peterborough, you know, there are. You know, you find tents in the middle of roundabouts, and so it's not just London centric, but obviously it's the highest percentage of people in one area would be London, but it is something that is happening here, and even Chatteris has, or there are groups of homeless people that sort of frequent the Fenland towns, and they just move from town to town, and so we don't have a continuous homeless issue in a town. They just sort of move from transient from one place to another. So I think, there is definitely an issue, but not all of them want to be helped.
No.
You know, some of them, it is a life choice, and they've decided to fall off the grid and go and live to become homeless for various reasons. But it's the ones that are there not by their own choice. They're the ones that need to be helped.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the world has changed a lot. But I think when I was a little girl, a very long time ago that was.
Say nothing.
But when I think of homeless people when I was little, it was often tramps. And I lived in an army town. I grew up in an army town when I was younger. So there were some ex-forces people that just chose not to opt out of society, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That was their choice, and they were well suited to it, a lot of them, and well recognisable, really. Everybody, knew who they were, and sometimes they were safe to approach.
But there's also another group of people, other homeless people, and that's the homeless in quotation marks. Because there are, and I've seen this in Peterborough, so I know it's out there. There are people who are housed and work with gangs, and they're run by a pimp, if that's the title. They basically have a handler, and they walk into town. They then go and pick up their spots, and they beg for money and support, and then at the end they give most of it to their handler, and then they go back to their lodgings. And it's a career. They become career homeless people, but they're not homeless, but they're on the streets. They've got they've got a dog or an animal, or they've got signs, and they've got all the sort of the normal paraphernalia you'd expect with a homeless person. So it's very difficult to sort of work out who is and who isn't officially a homeless person and someone who is in need of help, because you've got so many different classifications of people who are out on the street.
That's very Dickensian, isn't it? When when that sort of activity started in the country, I remember reading about it and thinking, oh my goodness, we've gone back a century or two. And terrific, really, isn't it, what people are put through? And that can often be a form of modern day slavery, can't it?
It is, and that's the thing, is slavery is still a big issue. Just because they finally made it outlawed slavery as a term, just a few years ago. Slavery still exists in this country, but it's hidden. And it's not what you'd expect. It's not people chained up and stuck inside. And there are other ways of holding people against their will. I mean, that's something that we're looking into in this film that we're doing about the Fens. Is we're looking into slavery in its modern forms, and it's quite disturbing. And some of the panorama programs and various other BBC documentaries that have been shown, they are people who work in shops. They're not held captive, they're not physically restrained, but there are so much pressures on them and threats against their family. They do what they're told. They go to work, they do their job, they work in nail bars, or they work in a variety of support industries. They do their job, they come back, and they're then back within the folds of the slavery, the gang masters and stuff. But they're threatened. If they don't follow the rules, their family back home will be punished. And it's so many
mental and emotional control.
It is. It's a mental prison.
It is, and I do believe there's some physical violence at times as well involved.
There probably is to start with. There is something there to show that they mean what they're talking about, and then the rest of it. Once that's there, you then have that mental memory of what's happened, and then that's how you control the people.
Yeah. Making the individual submissive.
Yeah.
It can be in domestic situations as well, can't it? You know, where household staff are slaves and what have you. It's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's horrible.
And there are numbers of support lines, but it doesn't matter what we found. But the slavery, they're just too scared to even ask for help, and that's the big problem. And even when they're given an option, they're so fearful that they will walk away from help. they're so focused on the fear element of what the situation they're in that they just won't take any help that's offered. You either have to physically go in and extract the people from them, because they don't have their passports anymore. There's threats against them and their families, and there's other sort of means of coercion as well.
Well, it seems to me that there's a fear, number one, that the individuals won't be believed over the perpetrators, and number two, that well, you're right, that their family will be harmed in some way. There's that as well, isn't there? And are they really safe? Sometimes the victims have been forced to commit a crime as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
Like they say about begging and then going back. I'm sure they'll have it in their heads. The victims will have it in their heads. They've done something wrong. They can get into trouble. They could go to prison.
Yeah, there is that fear of that they could end up being in trouble and being sent to prison or deported from the country.
Yeah.
And sent home. So they then have the issue of the humiliation of going home as well, because the gangs usually have a gangmaster in the country where they've come from and a gangmaster in the UK, and they talk to each other, and that's sort of, they're controlling the routes and the passages of the people coming through. So there's, if they go back, then obviously the regional gangmasters will know who have come back and why.
It's completely dehumanising, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
I don't know how you'd have to be. I couldn't put myself into the head of somebody who could do that to another human being. I really couldn't. I'm glad about that.
Yeah, it's how people can just abuse people, take advantage of them for all sorts, and still have a conscience and still live and sleep and just live with what they do. It's almost like we're becoming so desensitized to this world that people's boundaries or barriers or personal belief systems are completely shot. And that there are no boundaries. They will just keep doing what they want until they are stopped. So.
Yeah.
And also people taking advantage of legal loopholes, because the law itself doesn't cover everything. And even when it does, the legal system lets it down.
Yeah.
And that's been shown. So even if you've got all the evidence to say that you are a victim, it still gets thrown out or dropped, or it's a mess in lots of different levels. But you do feel sorry for the police in a lot of respects, because they see the people they're trying to help go through the system, and then they're back to square one again without the help and support. And then they know that the people won't trust the police because they've been let down by the legal system.
Yeah.
And the police are trying everything they can to help them, and it's just that element of, well, one's not going to trust you because they've had a bad experience, so then no one else will then go through that process either.
I think it takes a very brave person to stand up to these people. It really does.
It does, yeah. They do have to be very, very strong to be able to get themselves out of that situation.
And plenty have, so there's always hope.
Yes, I mean, we've spoken to the Rosmini Centre, and yes, they've said they have had a lot of successes. So yeah, it's not all doom and gloom. People do manage to break out of that lifestyle, and there are people who will help. That's the thing, is if you've not heard of the Ross Community Centre, it's based in Wisbech, and they are dedicated to helping migrants who have ended up in this country for whatever reason, and they go out the way to help people get out of these lives and help them, try and get them back into some kind of society and get them back on tracks again. Either whether they want to go back to their own country or to stay here and make a new start. But they will help them in any way, and they do fantastic work.
Yes, they do. They do fantastic work. They're lovely people.
They are, and they're so dedicated in what they do. I think we're getting to the end of the show, unless you've got anything else to add.
Pardon?
Have you got anything else to add?
Oh, no, I haven't. Sorry, apart from my ears need sorting.
Pardon? Sorry, I couldn't resist it.
I nearly repeated myself.
Sorry about that. I won't do that again. Right, so we got to the end of the show. So that's all from me. You got any last words before we end?
No, please. Apart from, please keep your physical distance from other people and wash your hands. Please, 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 please.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. We are still in lockdown. It hasn't ended. We still need to be following all the restrictions that have been set up. This is not a holiday. We're not all being let out yet. It's the rules and regulations are there. Follow them, please, until indicated otherwise. Okay, well, that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.